Welcome to Optimizing Your Sales Funnel. I'm Carla with Small Business Solver and the Small Business Solver team. And today we're really going to look at your overall sales funnel. What is a sales funnel? What are the parts? And then really how to make it better. So that's the key thing. So let's jump into it. So what are we talking about is what is your sales funnel? The biggest thing is when you understand your own sales funnel and all the pieces of it, the next thing is to understand what's not working. So we call that the bottleneck. And then when you find out the key bottleneck or bottlenecks, because sometimes and often there's actually more than one, that's when we can start coming up with strategies and tactics to improve that part of the sales funnel. When that happens, well, of course, the entire sales funnel is optimized. So what is your sales funnel? Well, a typical sales funnel is basically the idea that it is a numbers game. So every single customer, before they become a customer, starts not even knowing about your business or about your organization. So the first thing is getting someone to be aware of your business or organization. Once they even know that you exist, the next thing that really matters is that they're interested. So is your messaging, once they're aware, do they go to the next level of being interested in you and interested enough to actually research a little bit more? And when that happens, then are they actually ready to work with you? And so that doesn't mean that every single person is going to be ready to work with you. In fact, many people will never be ready to work with you. But really the sales funnel piece of this is so important, of understanding that they go from one to the other until you finally close them. Now, this is very, very simplified. We've only put them into a few different parts of the sales funnel. It's really important to know that your sales funnel might look really, really different than this. Or you might just keep it simple like this. But there's many different ways of looking at a sales funnel. And here's another example. It's actually starting from prospect all the way to a customer. And you can see that there's all these different pieces. And this one looks more like what maybe an online tool or app might look like, or a website. And so it's not just those four things that we identified, there's all of these pieces. And so really depending on what business you're in, what sector you're in, how your sales works, you wanna really customize this for yourself. So now that you understand that it starts like a lot of numbers at the top, and then it starts going smaller and smaller, the next question is, now that you know your sales funnel, is what is your bottleneck? And so a bottleneck really is what is your, where and when are they not going from one stage to the next stage? So that is where your bottleneck is going to be. The neat thing in Small Business Solver is we actually have a tool to help you figure this out. So I'm actually going to jump into Small Business Solver and to show you at the very top, you can go into Business Checkup and see how to improve your sales. And in this section, it's actually a quiz to help you figure out what your biggest bottleneck is. So I'm just going to go through this really quickly. Let's say your sales target was $80,000 and the average price that you sell something is $500. So let's say it's your optical lenses or something, so eyeglasses, expensive and nice trendy eyeglasses, obviously. And the average cost that you have is, let's say, $200. Oh, sorry, never mind, that's another one. Existing customers that you have, so especially with people who have glasses, they keep on coming back because they have changes to their eyes or they want whatever's trendy and new. So maybe your active customers that you have is about 500 people who keep on coming back to you. That'd be really great, actually. So we'll say 50 at this point. Out of those, 25 actually didn't really like working with you. Oops. Then the next thing is that how many people do have eyeglasses or need them around you? Well, if you look and do some market research and do some analysis, maybe you realize that there's actually 10,000 qualified prospects. And of those, you know that 1,000 know about you at this point. Then the next thing, or let's say 800, we'll just make it something that we've done some marketing and maybe sent out some flyers. So we know only 800 people know about that. Of that, 150 have shown up and they're interested and maybe looking. But of those, only 100 have purchased so far. So we click submit, and actually the sales calculator is going to identify where we actually have to focus. And it's really looking that it's identified that because we've actually lost a lot of customers versus our existing customers, that our delivery is actually the big challenge. So this is a new part of the sales funnel that maybe we wouldn't have even identified before. So what's neat about this, I'm just going to go back here, is that the sales funnel pieces, when we were looking for our bottleneck, first you figure out your stages, and then you understand what are the conversion rates from one stage of the sales funnel to the next. Typically, we want that to be 10% or higher. So, and in retention, you want then the retention to be 90% or higher, because that would be losing 10%. What is the lowest conversion rate out of all of that? So even if everything is above 10%, so let's say from awareness, that would be 100 people know about you, and then 10% of that is 10. So that would mean that if 10 are interested, you're above that threshold. But let's say in all of your sales, stepping from one stage to the other, you're doing really, really great. Let's say they're all higher than 10%. Well, your bottleneck still is the lowest percentage that you've actually switched from one stage to the next. And then once you know what your bottleneck is, and remember that tool would actually help you, then you have to start thinking about why is it your bottleneck and how to improve it. So that's actually the rest of this, is that looking at all the different stages is how to improve that part of the bottleneck. So in here, how to improve finding prospects. That's typically in qualification process, that's typically the first stage that people will have. And again, you might have different stages. You might have named them something different. Again, I'm going to go back to Small Business Solver, because what's neat in here is under Small Business Training and Sales Training by Sales Funnel, we've actually identified here some of the main parts. So maybe you're ramping up your sales, you're finding prospects is the first part of your sales funnel, or creating awareness. So this is similar to what we chatted about before. And we've added in additional sales funnel stages, including follow-up and delivery. Well, in here, let's say we've identified that finding prospects is actually our bottleneck at this point. So we click on finding prospects, and this is actually identifying for us all of the major decisions and sales training that we need to actually do better at this stage. So when I'm looking back, here's how to improve finding prospects. Well, guess what? The first thing to do is really understand who is your ideal customer. Do your customer profile work and all that good stuff. And once you really understand your customer, you're able to get better lead lists. So the next thing that we look at here is then qualifying and getting those lead lists, right? So we have a better understanding of our customer, we know how to do qualification better, and that will allow us to actually build better lists of potential customers to reach out to. That helps us with our marketing plan and our sales plan. And the other way of finding prospects is really channel partners and referral partners. So this is other organizations that actually market or sell to the same customer type that you're going after, and can you build relationships with them in order to access their existing clients. So all of these are best practices and ways to improve this part of the sales funnel if this is your challenge or your bottleneck. The next one is how to improve awareness. So remember, if you basically have 10,000 qualified customers out there, but you don't know how to reach them, maybe you've only reached out to 150, well, the big part is awareness. And the top ways to actually improve this is, number one is actually prioritizing it. To be frank, doing awareness and following up, like just think about something like social media, or doing a blog, or executing a marketing plan. This takes time and this takes work. And sometimes it's just making sure that you're allowing people to get into your pipeline. This is the beginning of the pipeline. So guess what? If you're not doing awareness exercises, you're never going to be closing customers. So ensuring that this is a priority. The next thing is really important, messaging and making sure that all of your marketing tools are integrated. So if you are using social media, a blog, a website, flyers, whatever marketing tools that you're deciding to use, they should be all saying the same thing. They should have similar branding, making sure that they say your name, your logo, things like that, because then people, when they see it in multiple places, might actually become aware of you. So then next, let's say lots of people know about you, but nobody's really walking into the store, or no one's calling you or emailing you and asking for more information. Well, that's when we know interest is our bottleneck. So interest, sometimes it's just simply the first impression if they didn't understand enough, so it hasn't sprouted any interest. A big part of interest is actually all of the messaging. So how are you presenting yourself? Are you losing control of your message? Is someone else saying things about you? And then the other part is sometimes they might just not ask questions because they've just discounted the fact that you can do anything for them. So they have an objection to actually working with you for some reason. And that could be that maybe they perceive you as too expensive, or maybe they perceive that you actually can't do what you say you can do. So, or maybe they have some other sort of risk that's preventing them from moving forward. So in interest, it's a lot about ensuring that your brand, your first impressions are in place, and then a lot of controlling your messaging. So let's say people are interested, but they're not closing. You're not actually getting new business, even though you're getting lots of interest and questions. So there's a few things here. I mean, number one, are you trying to close too early, or maybe you're misinterpreting interest? Maybe they're not actually as interested as they are saying to you. So you're looking for other signs behind that, and that can be body language and things like that. Then the next thing is that they don't close because they perceive that there's too much risk. So we talked about that a little bit in the last one of like, how are we overcoming objections on the interest level? But here is how are we removing risk? So do we have guarantees? Do we have payment plans and things like this? And then the last is just our closing tactics in general. So what are our closing tactics? Are they the things that actually work for us? Then, remember in ours, we actually added in 2 other stages. So the first one is not only now have you closed, but what about the follow-up thereafter? So the first thing on follow-up is, again, making time for it and having a plan. Retention is absolutely critical. So are you actually having a plan for that? And the other part for follow-up, which really helps in sales, is some entire businesses rest upon upselling. So once you have a customer in the door, what else can you offer to them? And the final thing, which was identified as a challenge in our little sales funnel calculator that we used, was how to improve delivery. And so once you've landed a customer, you're doing the follow-ups, here the big things is really leaning into the relationship, knowing them, just continuing to develop that good positive experience. And the next thing is setting expectations. Doesn't matter how good your delivery if you actually have overpromised. So if you said you could do 10 times more than what you're able to actually do, then that's not a good fit. So that's the summary, is that first off, we talked about what is your sales funnel. We identified how to find your bottleneck and identify why there's a bottleneck, and finally, how to improve your sales funnel to really optimize your sales funnel. And so, again, we looked at some tools in Small Business Solver. This is Pay What You Can. This is available for you. We did the business checkup where you could actually find the sales calculator, and then we also went into small business training to actually find by the sales funnel stage how to improve it. And we walked through this whole thing in about 15 minutes. So again, optimizing your sales funnel. We are the Small Business Solver team, and I hope that this is helpful and that you find more and more resources online. Bye for now.